Hello, this is Mark Smith with Family Tree Counseling Associates, and I'm going to make a video today that sounds real familiar. 50 symptoms of narcissistic abuse syndrome revisited. April 26th of last year was when my former fiance lowered the boom, as they say, and just shattered me into a billion pieces, because I really didn't see it coming. So today is April the 24th, I believe, 23rd or 24th. 23rd, 24th actually. And so, as you might suspect, I'm beginning to think of last year. And I wanted to revisit this video that has impacted so many people and that changed my life. Wanted to revisit it with a year of recovery under my belt. I want to give you guys a little bit of background as to that video. Many of you have seen it. 50 symptoms of narcissistic abuse syndrome. The thing is about me is I'm not trying to impress anybody. I'm just sharing what I know and what I struggle with. And so I'll share with you a week before Thanksgiving this past year. I was so beaten and crushed and destroyed by narcissistic abuse that I was ready to sell my house and move to the beach and give up my large therapy practice and sort of retire at age 56 and basically live off of disability, because that's how much pain I was in. And in mid-November, I still didn't really have any answers. But then things turned around for me amazingly, and that is, I read the book Psychopath Free by Jackson McKenzie right around Thanksgiving. I listened to it 10 times on my phone. And about 3.5 weeks after I figured out what I had, it was a Friday night, and I was in a bit of a hurry. I was meeting my friend Tom over at Charleston's restaurant, one of my favorite, and it was actually the site where my fiance shattered me. And it was me taking back that restaurant, so to speak. That's the night that I made the video 50 Symptoms. And I know I've shared this story with you, but I met my friend Tom, and he got there early, and there's probably, 50 tables, 200 chairs in that restaurant. And I walk in, and he was sitting in the exact seat that my former fiance was sitting in. So that was the night. It was the 13th of December, and I didn't know what narcissistic abuse syndrome was 3.5 weeks before that. I'm just really amazed and thrilled at how, when I say God, I'm not trying to shove my version of God on you, but I do believe that God uses people and puts things together in such a way that he can use something bad for something that's very good. And I was ready to quit as a therapist in November, and I just shared from my heart the things that I discovered, and things have been rapidly improving for me on really all levels ever since I understood narcissistic abuse. And I wanted to just thank all of you. I bet I get 300 wonderful, kind, sweet, grateful responses for every once in a while I'll get a narcissist on there who takes a shot at me. But I do have a different perspective now. I think I'm wiser. I know I'm more healed. I know I have more knowledge. And I'm giving you this perspective because I would like to give you hope. I made it through a year. Tuesday, it'll be a year. And longest year of my life. Feels like 10. But I made it through. And you could make it through. I would say that I'm probably, in my symptoms, probably 85% better. You just have to keep plugging away and plugging away and plugging away. And generally, recovery isn't a sprint up a mountain. You have good days and bad days, and you go forward and you go backwards. This video has gotten a little over 64,000 views since the 13th day of December. You got to understand that before narcissistic abuse, I would make a video, and in a year, if I got 350 views, that was pretty normal. But all of a sudden, there's a nerve out there. This is an epidemic. There's so many people who've been shattered in this particular way. And I'm so grateful that me just sort of quantifying it for people touched a nerve. So I'm going to go through again the 50 symptoms, and I'm going to give you my perspective now, a year into recovery. Number 1, a whole bunch of crying. You know, I'm still crying, but I don't cry nearly as much as I used to. Thank goodness. I'm not as sad or as shattered or as crushed as I used to be. I think I said in the video that I'd cried millions of tears. That wasn't true, but many, many tens of maybe hundreds of thousands of tears. That's how God makes us. To heal is to cry. And when I cry, my body chemistry changes, and I go from feeling heavy and dark and hopeless and weak and little to feeling washed out and cleansed and lightened in my mood and freed and just sort of washed out. So the truth will set you free, and it did for me, but you still have to cry a lot of tears. Sometimes I feel it building up, and then it all comes out. Usually, if I have a safe person, like my therapist, to share with. Second thing is identity erosion. What this experience can do for you is it can recalibrate your identity. I wouldn't want to go back to the identity that I had, frankly, because I was a bit of an ass. I was arrogant. You watch some of the videos before April of last year that I have, and I certainly was horribly oblivious. I did not know who this woman was. I had this thing one time, somebody wanted to know if I was using a hookah pipe, whatever that is. Just a little beverage here. I tell people in my counseling appointments that what recovery is, it's re-engineering your personality from the ground up. And if you have somebody as oblivious as I was, and as babe in the woods, naive, innocent, sometimes you get shattered. And I'm a very different person than I was a year ago. Everybody remembers where they were on another Tuesday of November 11th, 2001. I was at work and I walked around the park talking with clients about the event. But our nation and that city was shattered by those buildings coming down. Who could have thought such a thing could have happened? But if you'll go to New York City now, there's not 2 towers, but there's one beautiful building, and there's a memorial place, and there's a new identity. There's something beautiful made out of the rubble and the disaster and the death. And we survivors and thrivers of narcissistic abuse, we are very much like ground zero. We were shattered and destroyed by some friggin' terrorists, and we've risen up over time and rebuilt and retooled and rebuilt our identity to where we're back and we're better than ever. My guys that I listen to on sports, Mike and Mike, the one skinny, dorky Mike says, we're back and we're better than ever. Well, that's what recovery is. Getting shattered and destroyed by a narcissist isn't the end of the story. It's there to make you better, so you can be back and go do cooler stuff and healthier stuff. This is going to be one long video, folks. Settle in. The third thing, exhaustion that you can't even describe with words. I would say for me that's about 90% better. I'd say about every 6 weeks I need to crash on a weekend and just sleep a lot. But other than that, I have tons of energy. This lack of energy was one of the most difficult symptoms for me because I just constantly had to lay down. So that's one of the cool things. I had shared that I had to leave my men's group, and my co-worker, associate, Andy Holzman, finally said, dude, this is your group. I've been running it for a year. Why don't you get your butt back in there? So starting next week, next Tuesday, I'm going to be back leading the men's group at my practice. And I moved it a little earlier. I'm not going to stay there till 9:15 at night. But I do think I'll have enough energy to go back to doing the men's group. So your exhaustion, people, if you work on your recovery process, you'll get your energy back, I promise you. Number 4 is panic attacks. If the intensity of a panic attack could be rated on a scale of 1 to 100. I think I was having some 90 out of 100s, quite a few of them. The whole world seemed nightmarish and unsafe. I walked around like all of us did those days following the 9/11 attack. We all were scared, and nobody wanted to get on an airplane, and everything just sort of shut down because our worst nightmare, beyond our worst nightmare, happened. So you really have a lot of fears. I still have low grade panic attacks, maybe 20 out of 100 when I pass a restaurant that she had been to with her fellow narcissist. As I was writing these notes out, I was cleaning out my desk, and I found what appeared to be a really nice, sweet note from her. And I didn't read it, I just glanced at it, and I did shred it up and put it outside because I didn't want to be further triggered. But it had me swirling in a little bit of a panic attack, probably 50 out of 100. But do your recovery work, and your panic attacks, I assure you, will get better. Mine certainly have. You still have them, but that you can't even hardly call them a panic attack anymore. They're just mild triggers, and I still have a bunch of them, and I avoid them whenever I can, but I wouldn't call them panic attacks anymore. Number 5, cognitive dissonance. This was one of the most horrific parts of narcissistic abuse. You guys know this, where you just think on it all the time. Your thoughts get captured when you're working, when you're with your friends. Your thoughts are taken away from you. And you just want the rumination to go away. Again, I'm just going to tell you who I am. When I started back to work in July and on through August, September, October, November, December, normally when I'm seeing a client, I've got one pad of paper there and I'm taking notes. But during that 6-month period, I had 2 pads of paper because my mind, even when I was working, I was with clients, I could not help it. My mind would go to all the stuff related to, being harmed in that way. So, but I don't need 2 pads of paper anymore. I rarely will make a note. I've got a little pad of paper, tiny pad of paper, and I'll occasionally make a note. But I don't have cognitive dissonance. I know what happened. I don't need any closure. I just wished that some professional out there could have told me about narcissistic abuse syndrome, because it would have tied everything together for me that I was going through. I'm a big believer. I've actually gotten some training from Patrick Carnes, so I'm a big believer in the concept and paradigm of sexual addiction. But sometimes it isn't sexual addiction as the primary diagnosis. Sometimes the primary diagnosis is borderline personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder. Number 6, my brain hurt. My brain is still very, very, very fuzzy. I was re-listening to Bessel van der Kolk's book, The Body Keeps the Score, and he was just talking about all the brain damage that happens. And that's certainly true. But I rarely have my brain hurt the way it used to all the time. You'll be on a mission to find the truth, and you'll see therapist after. That's the thing about the internet, is you can search and search and search, and you might find the right stuff or you might find the wrong stuff. But the right stuff is out there, and you'll be on a mission to figure out what happened to you. Number 8 is claustrophobia. If you've been shattered, and I work with people a lot of times who've been shattered weeks before I started working with them, and I I encourage them, quit working, take time off. I looked over my schedule a couple nights ago of the week before and after my shattering, 3 weeks after my shattering. I went to work for 3 weeks. That's not even human. And I wasn't effective. I think I pissed some people off because I wasn't myself. So if you are severely wounded and damaged, you'll have claustrophobia, and you don't need to be working. Don't get on a cruise ship. Go to a treatment center and let everybody in your life know, I'm going to devote to myself getting better. Number 9, brain fog and confusion. I'm so much better at being able to focus on a task. I got a lot of stuff done this weekend. I think the anticipation of April 26th has come up, and it sort of supercharged me to get some things done. But your brain will get better. I used to, it felt like I was punch drunk, like I was just in a daze. You can just picture somebody sort of drooling with a blank look on their face. That's how I spent a good 30% of my time. My brain was frazzled and fried, but it's better. Number 10, fear of engulfment. That's something that is pretty deeply ingrained. It isn't just from the shattering. People who have a fear of engulfment generally got that in their wounding growing up. And I've noticed, I haven't noticed, several young women, older women, have found out that they start to date me, and then I'll go bye-bye for several days and just not be available. And so I have to report that my fear of engulfment really hasn't gotten that much better. It's like one part of you thirst for connection, and the other part just doesn't want to be tied down by words and commitment. Number 11, wide swings from either over-idealizing the narcissist to then devaluing them. They're either, oh, poor them, or they're the devil, himself. So early on, when I first got a hold of this concept, I would make videos, she-devil vampires from hell. It wasn't quite that bad, but a little bit of devaluing probably tossed in there. Bloodsucker. But that's sort of what happens, is your brain is so shattered that you just flip back and forth. I remember interacting with that treatment center that had become her flying monkey, the bridge to recovery. And one week I'd be sending them an email praising them, and the next week I would be back to, accusing them of horrific malpractice, which was actually the case. So you're not a borderline, but swimming back and forth between over-idealizing and devaluing. It's part of the process of narcissistic abuse. Number 12, feeling and acting crazy. In the video back in December, I said it's as if they light you on fire. what do you do when you're lit on fire? You're like, ah, I'm on fire. You know, you're screaming, you're in a panic, it's obviously the biggest, you're on fire. And it's unfortunate that mental health professionals don't understand. They just look at a person's behavior and they don't understand the essential nature of complex PTSD. I just wonder how many people who've gone down in history as doing really awful things, you know, where they snap and they shoot people and whatnot. I just wonder how many of them were horrifically, narcissistically abused, who would never do that otherwise, who weren't murderers, who weren't psychotic, who weren't narcissists. They just snapped because of just horrific trauma that they went through. I do think that's the case, and it's made me always want to hear the other side of the story. Obviously, you can't advocate for somebody who goes in and grabs a gun and starts shooting people. But on a lesser level, when people act crazy, many times it's because they're just acting out their shock. They're just snapped into what appears to be insanity, and it's really just your system's way of trying to heal you and save you. Number 13, flashbacks. I used to probably have 100 of these a day, and now I'm down to maybe 20 or 30 a day. Being infused with anxiety, number 14, it'll crackle through your system. So, all right, I'm just going to be real with you. This is controversial, but dudes, if I got a lot of anxiety in my system, I'm taking a Xanax. I'm not ashamed to say it. I know some of you, go do yoga and meditation, and I've done that too. But if you're at work, you may not be able to go have a yoga class right in the middle of work. So, but I would say my anxiety in my system is probably down 90%. Number 15, severe depression. And again, it's not depression, it's a severe wounding in your heart. And the best thing you can do is to reduce any infection in the wound. And infection in the wound is basically when you're locked into victim mentality. Number 16, difficulty sleeping. All right, I'm just going to keep it real. Y'all maybe thought the teacher had his shit together completely, but I'm just keeping it real here. Dudes, if I can't sleep, I'm taking me an Ambien, because one of the worst nights of my life was back, it was May the 7th of last year, where it was a Sunday night and I was up late, and then there was a thunderstorm, and I didn't have no Ambien. So do what you got to do. The other thing that I was reminded of is when you have trauma, you're going to many times wake up early in the morning. I've noticed this weekend I could have slept in both days, but it's getting so close to April 26th. I was up very early. When I was at the treatment center, I would wake up every morning before 5:30 in the morning, no matter when I went to sleep. So you might have trouble falling asleep, and you might wake up in the middle of the night, and you definitely will wake up early because your system has been hyper-adrenalized. Number 17, you'll have suicidal thoughts. And I was going to tell you this is 99.9% gone, but then I had a couple bad days and the numbers are down to 99% gone. It's pretty well gone. But sometimes you have bad, jarring experiences, and it sort of pushes you back into just a fleeting thought of, this hurts too much, why am I here? Number 18, addiction to the perpetrator. With many of you folks that I've worked with, this is what we're trying to do, is stay no contact. And don't try to contact them with email, text messages, driving by their house, contacting them through the spirit world. However you're trying to do it, just let it go. Let it go. For me, it's like there's this infant in me that was seeking out attention from my harsh, abandoning mommy. And I'm happy to tell you that I am not addicted to that person any longer at all. At all. That's 100% gone. You'll experience a lack of joy, and I would say this is about 65-70% better. I've been riding around on my motorcycle and really enjoying that. But my previous video, you heard me talking about, I wish this wasn't my story. So I'm still working on getting a little bit of swagger back. Number 20 is trembling hands. And I still have a little bit of that. This weekend I was doing some typing. I noticed my hands trembling. But that will get better. It's probably 80% better. Number 21, emptiness in your soul and in your home. And here's the thing, people, is you don't need that person to make you whole. You need to find a way to be whole without them. Anything that's transpired that's caused you to be without them, it may seem like a tragedy. I was thinking this treatment center did such a horrific job. They caused the breakup, but I should thank them. I got away from, if I was still with her, she'd still be cutting me open and abandoning me and betraying me. So really develop a sense of self. I got a text message from my hero, my friend Kathy, and she was shattered years ago, and she says she's been busy doing master gardening, and what else did she say? Yoga instruction training, and there was some other like extra super cool thing that she was doing. She just does cool self-actualizing things. She's my hero. You can get better and get your joy back. Number 22 is loss of appetite. I got to tell you, I'm healed of that, folks. About the only thing nice about being shattered was I was so skinny, I looked better. But you get better, and you know what you do? You just go back to being who you were. And I need to get working on a diet and get exercising, or I'm going to get back to where I was when I was really, really super overweight. Number 23, sensitivity to noises. And this really hasn't gotten better for me. I'm still, if I'm in a restaurant and there's loud talkers in the restaurant, I am very uncomfortable. I tell you what, this experience shatters you to your core, and you just won't be able to handle noises. At least for me, even a year later, I'm still struggling with it. Number 24, being hyperkinetic, or just pacing around and being filled with energy. As I've moved forward towards April 26th, I found a massive increase in this hyperkinetic energy. And I sort of wish I had some of it back. You have a lot of energy, but Mark isn't like a tiger anymore pacing the room. You know, my system has calmed, and your system will calm itself down too. Number 25, easily startled. this is probably from my childhood. I'll be in a room and somebody will walk in and they just appear like the Holy Ghost, and it just startles you and about gives you a heart attack. Now, that got worse as a result of narcissistic abuse, but it was already in me before that. Number 26, a lot of shame and a lot of self-loathing. When you're broken and shattered, people, they don't get it, that you're not a fool and you're not a child, you're a hero. You're actually showing so much strength to be able to just put one foot in front of another and to survive and to live. Number 27, you'll be very fragile physically and emotionally. When I first had this, it sort of felt like I was like a 80-year-old man, and you know how old people, when they fall down and they some of them break their hip and they never are the same. That's sort of how I felt. I felt like I could fall down and crack in two. Number 28, pain in your chest. Classic symptom of narcissistic abuse. I probably heard 50 people say they got a pain in their chest. That's the epicenter. You have a broken heart. Nightmares. You'll suffer from really bad nightmares. I started to date a little bit, and I had this horrific dream of an earthquake, where I was swallowed up by the earth and cars were falling toward me. But I lived through it. So that was a nightmare with a little bit of hope on it. And I encourage you guys to write your dreams down. What I do is I get up in the morning and I will have experienced a dream, and then you can just look it up on Google. You can find anything on Google. I had a dream about driving around in an RV, and I woke up feeling good, and I looked it up, and I had the quote here, but it's not readable. But basically it was, you're being self-realized, you're fulfilling your dreams, you're having joy, you're accomplishing things. And that's exactly what was processing as I was sleeping. Number 30, you'll avoid triggers when you possibly can. I still don't have bananas in my house because that's a trigger for me. Number 31, not remembering what happened early on. I was just listening to The Body Keeps the Score today, and he was talking about loss of memory is so common, not just for childhood sexual abuse, but it's so common for any kind of PTSD wound. Number 32, rage. And what I've noticed is I really don't get very angry anymore. When you're living with somebody with a mask, and then their mask slips every once in a while, and they're this vicious attack dog, you might bark back a little bit just out of being attacked. But if you get that vicious person out of your life, you'll find out that you're really maybe not as angry as you thought you were. Number 33, hopelessness. That's gone. I have so much hope. I see such a bright future. And when I'm working with my clients, I many times will tell them that, like, you have a bright future. You're going to get better. Life just keeps getting better and better and better. Number 34, being on high alert for danger, having hypervigilance. I have some clients that experience so much trauma that they go out and get guns and they carry them wherever they go. And they've never used them. They've never needed to use them. But if somebody shows up at McDonald's with a AK-47, you're going to be prepared. And that's just people who grew up not feeling safe. You'll go to the movies and you'll be scanning the area or a restaurant just to see. It's like when you're at war, yeah, scan the area. But dude, you're at the movies. Chillax a little bit. Nobody's going to attack. I mean, obviously there are people that do, but it doesn't happen very often. Number 37, you'll grieve the loss of your innocence. One of the terms my friend Serena Nightshade uses is strip mining. That predators will come in and they'll basically strip mine your potential. And I didn't know that there was people like that. I never would have imagined that there were people like that, and that I could be involved with somebody like that. A viewer named Martha sent me a quote by Pamela Glenn Connor, and it's about innocence of a child. It says, "Bitter are the tears of a child, sweeten them. Deep are the thoughts of a child, quiet them. Sharp is the grief of a child, take it from him. Soft is the hard heart of a child, do not harden it." Isn't that beautiful? If you have children, just be there, be in sync, be in tune, pay attention. Give them what you didn't get. Number 39, dissociation, just psychologically going bye-bye. I don't have any of that. Actually, that was 39. 38 is unhinged. I really wish that our culture understood complex PTSD, because you can't really judge a human being until you know their background and what they've been going through. But I'll tell you this, the worst possible thing you can do with somebody who's unhinged is to not listen to them. They need psychological air to breathe. So give them psychological air to breathe. Don't interrupt them or cut them off. Number 40, you're going to need a lot of time alone to process, to get grounded. And you're going to need to practice this. Number 41, you'll have a flight or fight response. If I'm driving down the road and a car drives up behind me, and they're not tailgating me, they're just driving down the road, but I'll pull over to the side and let them go. Because I feel danger, and I'm more comfortable without a car behind me. Number 42 is the sensation of being numb. And I said in the video that I'd experienced 49 of 50, but hadn't experienced being numb. And I said, I wish I had. And I got corrected by many people. They said numbness is awful because when you're numb, you sort of cease to be a person. And for them, the numbness was one of the worst things. Number 43 is helplessness and powerlessness. And for me, this was one of my top 5 worst symptoms. There was a man in my life who was basically running my fiance's life, their addiction together, and I didn't even hardly know he existed. And sometimes when somebody doesn't understand, when a professional doesn't understand about these narcissists, it's sort of like, let's say O.J. Simpson went in a treatment center. I don't know if he did or didn't. And instead of treating him, they were like Johnny Cochran. This bridge to recovery was my fiance's Johnny Cochran. Is they advocated for him, and they empowered him, but they didn't deal with truth. Any treatment center, the client needs to be truth. And the client needs to be the system, not the person who's writing the checks. Number 46, you're going to feel psychologically raped and defiled because you have been psychologically raped and defiled. There's just a profound and utter shock. It's like you're a little kid and somebody comes by with a baseball bat and just starts beating you, and you'll feel sexually wounded and bruised because you have been sexually abused. This is soul murder, what you've been through. Number 45 or 46, I think I flipped them. You're going to be vulnerable to people who want to rescue you, so be careful. They're going to want to scoop you up and adopt you. Number 47, I got to be real here too. There's fantasies of revenge, and I got to be honest, I have more of those now than I did, 9 months ago. It's nothing that I would ever act on. I don't want to give it time and energy. But every once in a while, I'll play a scenario in my head where, the wrath of God will be visited upon these individuals and all their flying monkeys. The thing is these people will get their comeuppance because you cannot live that selfishly and that rudely and that meanly without paying a price eventually. Number 48, you'll have your initiative to get things done paralyzed. And that's been one of the wonderful things about recovery is now I can set big goals and I can achieve them. I've been achieving one thing after another that early on in recovery, going to the pharmacy was almost impossible. But you will regain your strength, you will regain your momentum, and you'll be able to take on big tasks. Number 48 is you're going to be very moody. And I would say this is 90% better. I'm not really moody anymore. Number 49 is impulse control issues. I mentioned in the video, I went out and bought 4 new pair of glasses, and I got a coupon the other day from the same place. Get me another pair of glasses. I don't think I need another pair of glasses. I got enough glasses. So try to control your impulses, and as you stabilize and ground yourself, you will not have to spin out of control with making unhealthy decisions. I realized when I went through this, there was really only 49 of them. So I added a 50th, and that is you're easily damaged by flying monkeys. If there's a flying monkey in the house, it might as well be the perpetrator himself or herself, because they become possessed by the power and the personality of the perpetrator. It's amazing how much internal poison can get transferred from one poison to one poison. It's like a lynch mob. I experienced that with the perpetrator in my life. She was just every human being that she came in contact with, she was feeding negative energy about me toward them. It also happened at a treatment center where I was at. There was a couple of borderlines, and I have enough, I would say, mild narcissism in me. I have empathy. I have remorse. I don't have full-blown narcissistic abuse personality disorder, but got a little bit of obliviousness, and they saw this, and it felt like there was a lynching gonna happen because the borderlines were stirred up. So there you have it. The 50 symptoms of narcissistic abuse syndrome revisited after a year of recovery. So this Tuesday, April 26th, I'm going to get in my convertible, and I'm driving to St. Joe, Michigan, and I'm going to get a massage, and I'm going to see my EMDR therapist, Shannon Grow. I'm going to have dinner with my friend Peg, and I'm going to get up in the morning and have a phone session with my therapist from Michigan, Paul Hartman. He moved to the other side of the state. And then I'm going to meet with my really brilliant bodywork therapist, Deborah Ward. So when you have anniversaries, do what you do. If your marriage was ever good, you celebrated your anniversaries. If your life was good, you celebrated your birthdays. And to me, this feels like it did the anniversary of like my mother's death, the first year. It feels like a big moment, a big day. So I'm going to take 2 days off and just really invest it in my recovery. And then on the 30th, I'm actually having a Mark's I Survived Complex PTSD open house, 1 year anniversary open house, in order to sort of honor the process. So this is what I put on Facebook, and I invited 50, 60, 70 people or so. I said, I had a picture of this monk sort of hugging a big old tiger. And I wrote, trauma is like there's a tiger in the room. And with you guys' help, I was able to tame a pretty vicious tiger. And I'm inviting you to a very special and very unusual event. It's an open house to thank each of you and to celebrate my surviving the most difficult year of my life. I originally thought we could put a full-size poster of this woman and throw darts. That sounded a little victim. We're not going to do that. So I say, feel free to just stop by for a half an hour, have a beer, get some food, and I wanted to say, give me a hug, but it sounded a little narcissistic. Think of it as a combination between a party, a funeral, a graduation, and a group therapy session. Everybody has issues, and I try to build community where we can not only have fun, but we can get deep, and we can talk about painful things one with another. So I said, now, doesn't that sound fun? Combination between a party, a funeral, a graduation, and a group therapy session. So I also wanted to say that in celebration of this, I'm being given the opportunity to go down to Onsite again for a week for their Keystone program, the Living Centered program. So I'm really excited about that. I leave on May the 6th. So thank you for watching. We have a new website. So visit familytreecounseling.com. Everything's not quite worked out. I didn't realize when you launch a new website that there's still some hiccups that you're working out a week later. But there are books on there, and you can get books on abandonment issues. And there's 3 videos where I talk twice as long. This is almost an hour video. I got one on there that's 2 hours. So I have a lot to say about the recovery process because it's real and it's saved me. And you guys have watched me for a year struggle mightily with this. And I'm just so grateful that that recovery works, and that there are many good people out there, and that the human heart is meant to heal, and that nobody has the power to destroy your life. They only had the power to help you get back and better than ever. So I hope this reflection of these symptoms revisited has been a help to you. I care about you. If you want to meet with me on Skype appointments, I can squeeze you in. I've got a few spots open. And I wish you blessing and thriving in your life. God bless.